Okay, so being that we are having the week we have, I want to go ahead and put a little note here and pay, kind of honor the week that we're having out here in the West. I'm in Catawba County, and we're not hit nearly as badly as, if you just go about 20 minutes to the west of us, starting in Burke County, and then of course further and further to the west, they're definitely hit the hardest. So this is the link to nc.gov, the page that is set up for disaster relief. So just taking a moment to give a nod to how you can reach out to help. And I know we've all been on social media and seen the news, and are reaching out to loved ones and friends and family and just everything that is going on out there. So the link to the webinar is down there in the lower left-hand corner, and I will pop it in the chat to make it a little bit easier to get to. So we've got go.ncdpi.gov/align chat empower, all lowercase. There are a lot of things to click on in there, and let's go ahead and get started. So this is my little AI generated graphic here on the left-hand side, and I did a combination of using ChatGPT to come up with this graphic, and then it kind of got close to what I wanted it to look like. But then I also didn't quite get the wording correct, because ChatGPT was okay with it. It got the basics of kind of going on a hero's journey with aligning with standards, and then using SchoolAI to create the chat interface, so you get that feeling of giving the ownership and the agency to the student, in order to get that experience in the hands of the student. But ChatGPT wasn't quite right, so I went over to Ideogram to really get this to be exactly the way I wanted. So I put the information down there in the lower left-hand corner, so you could kind of see that we are to the point now where we can mix and match our AIs, just like a few years ago we used to app smash. So now it's basically AI smashing to get it to do exactly what we want it to do. So I just wanted to throw that piece of information right at you first thing in this webinar. So here we are going to go to really show how we can get our AIs to really do that experience that we want to with our students, and really personalize our classrooms for kids. So let's dive in here and look at the description. Here's another, my AI girl here, created with Magic Media in Canva, and showing how we can, this is applicable. SchoolAI chatbots can be applicable to any grade level and any content area. So this is really an interactive workshop. So I'm going to be talking to you here on the screen, but also maybe a tab on the side. We're going to dig into SchoolAI and chatbots and your standards. So if you are a classroom teacher and you've got your content standards in mind, that definitely have that in mind. If you are an instructional coach or an ed tech coach and you work with teachers, then think about how you're going to align this maybe with your teachers' content standards, but maybe the ISTE coaching standards or educator standards, those in mind. So just kind of think about how you're going to be applying these chatbots to the standards and the teachers that you work with, okay? Because we're going to actually build here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so here's the agenda. First of all, the role of design thinking and empathy in our classrooms. We're going to start off with a little bit of that high level thinking, because until you really put yourselves in the shoes of the person that you're designing for, whether it is the students in the classroom, or if you're working with educators in a coaching role, the teachers that you're working with. And then we're going to take a really good tour of the features of SchoolAI and dig into the nitty-gritty of how SchoolAI works. And then we're actually going to build, and then I'm going to give you some background resources so that you just have those tools in your back pocket to revisit next. Okay, so you guys ready? So before we leave this screen, if you are on slide 4, okay, if you would jump over here into this Padlet and have that opened on the side. Okay, this is my Notebook LM Padlet. I used that last week for Notebook LM, so I'm just going to go really quick and add another section over here for SchoolAI. And we're going to keep that. And if you guys would, you might need to refresh since I just added that, and add a quick little note for how do you currently use chatbots in your classroom? Okay, so SchoolAI is one of the ones that we use a lot in classrooms for chatbots, but Magic School also has some really good chatbots, so that might be one that you also use. There's another site that is out there that makes allows teachers and educators to make customized chatbots called Mizu, so that might be another one that you use. So if you could either use the chat here on the screen, or if you want to go over to the Padlet and put it there, just give me a quick idea of how you're currently using chatbots in your classroom, if you are, or if you aren't yet, then what would you think of using chatbots for in your classroom? Kind of what brought you to this session, and what are your ideas? So just to get your ideas flowing here in the first couple of minutes of this session. I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about that. Okay, so Martha is putting a note over here just to give a shout out to the screen and for people who might be listening later. We've got Martha says she hasn't used them yet, but is thinking of using them with ML students. Excellent use. I'll make sure that I point out how SchoolAI is good for supporting ML students. I'm going to make a note of that. Definitely applicable. Jennifer, a new DLC. So I'm just learning how teachers are using chatbots, and we're working with developing a chatbot for Digital Literacy Week. Awesome, awesome ideas. I'll make sure that I make a note of that. Charismatic Dragonfly. Love that
That's
name.
me.
Thank you, Padlet, for just coming up with the most awesome things. That's so cool. So use the Launchpad space in SchoolAI and wanting to create more for PD sessions. Okay, that is a cool use of them. Okay, so we'll brainstorm that, because I've got a section here in a couple of slides about, one of the easiest ways to get started is using your standard course of study, right? But we can branch off of into PD spaces also. So we'll make sure that we kind of multitask there when we get to that screen. Okay, so cruising on ahead here. Feel free as things come up to just jot them down, either on a sticky note or put them into the Padlet so you save your ideas, so that when we get to this next section, we have those saved. Okay, so just a quick note to kind of show the alignment between the digital learning competencies for educators and leaders and how this section connects. You can see that we have our digital learning competencies tied to the ISTE standards for educators. It is very aligned to almost every one of them in some way. So I made sure to point those out on this screen, from the learner and the designer, really clear connections. Also for the leadership standard for educators seeking ways to support students and empowering them. That empowerment component and giving the agency over to the students is so clear in using chatbots and putting this into the hands of the students to drive their own learning. And then also from the leadership point of view, all of these ways is when you're supporting your teachers and giving access to this technology in your building. So a lot of districts are in the process of enabling AI tools like SchoolAI to be open and available for student use in their districts. So as this becomes more available to students, this is definitely supporting that leadership standard in the digital learning competencies in our state. Okay, so let's take a quick minute to look at how design thinking is an important component in designing chatbots. And before we jump into kind of the nitty-gritty of design of creating one and designing one. So if you are familiar with the design thinking process, put a quick note in the chat. Just maybe thumbs up or yes, no. How many of you have looked into the design thinking process? Excellent. So a couple of yeses there. Okay, so we're not going to go through the whole entire design thinking process in this session because that's a deep dive that we're not going to have time to get into in this hour. But the one thing that I wanted to point out here in the stages of design thinking, it's a very user-centered approach. And the first step in design thinking is to one of the kind of quick ways to talk about it is to put yourself in the shoes of the user of whatever it is that you're designing. So this empathy component. And one of the things that I'm going to click on this link here to the Agile Elephant, great name, right? And bring you over here to how they talk about it is that they say that it's more than just putting yourself into their shoes, right? It's literally kind of having a love relationship with the user of your product, that it's really being connected with them and trying to really feel how they're going to feel when they're using either the experience or the product that you're creating with them. So when you think about how you're creating this product or this experience using a chatbot, you need to take a step back and really have the experience with the person that is using the chatbot and learning with this tool. So I put in our slide deck on the next page a couple of the quotes that they have on the Agile Elephant page so that you have it without having to go back to the website. So I set these over here so we can kind of take a look at them up close and personal. And this first quote that they selected and really has relevancy, I think, to our work in education is that design thinking or design is the ultimate defense against complexity. And I feel like that really appeals to us in education because we just don't have time for a lot of nonsense, right? Teachers are too busy. We have too much to do. There's too much going on in class to put a lot of other fluff around what we're doing. So design thinking really emphasizes that too, is we really just kind of need to get to the point. The next one is simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and you know it when you see it, right? You just kind of pare things down to the direct point that we're doing. So when you get to the point where we're going to be designing these chatbots, you're going to see a lot of information on the screen that you could put into to the back end of SchoolAI. But when it comes right down to it, you really only need to do three things. I'm going to show those three things to you. The next quote here from Sir Ernest Hall, a pianist, an entrepreneur, and a philanthropist, is design is a way of changing life and influencing the future. Isn't that exactly what teachers, what educators just kind of embody in what we're doing. On a day-to-day basis, we're teaching math, we're teaching the standard course of study, we're, in science, we're, I don't know, teaching mitosis, I don't know, whatever we're doing, right? But really, we're changing life and influencing the future. So if we look at our chatbots, if you're creating a really good PD, then you want to influence the way teachers are able to do something in their classrooms, right? So, that's that little kernel of optimism and hope that you're doing. And then this last one down here by Steve Jobs, most people make the mistake of thinking that design is what it looks like. And I'm going to tell you, I love a great graphic, right? You can definitely tell I've got these AI generated graphics in here. But ultimately, Steve Jobs says that design is how it works. It might look great, but if it doesn't work very well, no one's going to use it. Okay, so I just wanted to throw some of these design thinking ideas at you and say, when we really stand in the experience of either our teachers or our students, that ultimately we want a chatbot to enhance the experience for the people that we're designing it for. Otherwise, it's just a kind of a snazzy AI tool, and it really isn't improving the educational experience. And those of you I know some of you in this chat from a long time, and we've had this saying in educational technology that it's not about the tool, it's about the teaching. So we want to make sure that these tools are really aligned with what we're trying to accomplish, either in the classroom or in our educational role. Okay, so let me pause real quick and give you guys a chance to either type in the chat if you've got a comment about that or something that you want to share, and then we'll get into kind of the details of SchoolAI. And you feel free to unmute because we're a small group. Okay, I'm going to jump over to SchoolAI. So if you would like to open up a tab, we're going to and sign into SchoolAI. That's where we're going next. I want to say a quick word about SchoolAI's privacy and safety and kind of how the company has designed themselves. And we've got a disclaimer at the end about, DPI endorsing tools and things like that. Of course, we want to make sure that every district who is looking at tools is going to take a look at them and make sure that they are, verified for their own use and their own situation inside their district. But we have, as a behind the scenes, let me go ahead and for the people who have just joined us, let me go ahead and throw the link into the chat. Hey, you guys. We are operating here on a limited crew, so I wanted to make sure that I am still sharing my screen and I've got everything A-OK. There we go. Okay, we are over here on slide number 9 of the slide deck, and we just got started talking about SchoolAI. So, SchoolAI is one of those educational AI tools that has been designed specifically for K-12 education. Behind the scenes, they likely use ChatGPT as their AI engine. They reserve the right to use the best AI that is applicable for the tool, for the specific job that they're doing. But in one of the sandbox meetings that I had a few months ago, they were talking about it in terms of ChatGPT. but they put guardrails on the AI so that it is designed for K-12, and students, when they are in your chatbot experience, are not allowed to get off task, to be able to go directly to the AI, the external AI that you would experience if you were in ChatGPT directly in the commercial space. SchoolAI is designed with safety and privacy in mind. They have a very transparent AI privacy policy so that you can get to it and you can see it. But as I was saying just a minute ago, we definitely understand that every district is going to have their own process for vetting and approving a tool. So this is just meant to explore the resources and let you know what's available and kind of how to use it. So we are going to forge on ahead and talk a little bit more about privacy and safety and using these tools. When you sign in as an educator, you're going to sign into the account and design the experience. But when students join the experience, they don't join at this time with their username or information. They just sign in or they just join the experience sort of the way they do with a Kahoot, where they type in their first name or maybe a nickname, but they aren't actually signing into SchoolAI. But even that said, you would never put personally identifiable information into any AI. Student ID numbers, RPII. Always make sure that you're reading the privacy policy and information. If you ever have any questions, definitely check with your technology department. So any questions about that before I move on to the next thing? We good? Okay. So if you have another tab opened and you are signed in, you will see a screen that looks something like this. And there are a lot of different components of the SchoolAI site. Up here at the top, you're going to see spaces. You'll see discover, create, tools, and assistants. Now, tools and assistants are the side of the SchoolAI site that are designed for workflow and efficiency. You can create lesson plans, behavior intervention plans, rubrics, all those sorts of things. And that would be a whole nother webinar. So we're going to kind of leave that side of the site alone for this time. We're really going to concentrate on spaces, which is the chatbot side of the SchoolAI site. So we're going to click over here in just a second. There are a couple of different kinds of spaces. There are sidekicks, which are really simple spaces. And then there are video explorer spaces where you can upload a YouTube video and it will automatically create questions that go along with the video. And then there are bell ringer spaces. There are a bunch of different kinds of spaces, and you can discover spaces that teachers have already created and made public, so you can use those and remix them for yourselves. And then you can also create your own spaces from scratch. So we are going to create them from scratch so that you just kind of have all of the abilities, and then you can kind of go through that experience and do almost anything with any of the other spaces that are already there. Okay, so I am going to show you a couple of examples of spaces, the types of spaces that might get your creativity thinking about, like, well, so I can think of a space as a chatbot, but what does that really mean? Like, what is a space? So think of spaces and chatbots as the exact same thing, right? You can create a space or a chatbot to chat with a historical figure, any person, real or imagined. So you could chat with Alexander Graham Bell, or you could chat with a pretend figure, right? So you could create one that is already something from a book that you're reading, or you could brainstorm characters in class and then create a space for that. There are spaces that are already created on the SchoolAI site for things like the ACT and the SATs. They have a space for navigating FAFSA, for example, because that was really popular last year. You can create spaces to be a coach for virtually anything. So they have, sports coaches, coaches for learning a foreign language. So all kinds of different spaces for that. They have all of these types of spaces for very specific subjects. This digital wellness space was one that a student teacher created that came to a session that I was doing a few months ago. So there are all kinds of different spaces or chatbots for virtually any any subject that you would think of, or any idea that you can think of. So any questions about what a space actually is? Just realized I closed my chat, so I'm going to open that back up. Okay, going to forge on ahead. Make sure you ask questions. Okay, so before we get into actually designing a space or a chat bot, I would like you guys to experience one as if you're a student. Okay, so there are two ways for you to get an experience. One, you can just click on the website itself and discover one, right? Or you can go to my SchoolAI playground and experience one that was created either by me or by some teachers who have been to some of my sessions, and then they shared them with me and I made a copy and I put them in my playground. So these are actually teacher created chatbots that have been shared in this playground. So if you click on this link, it is on page 13 in the slide deck. And if everybody doesn't have the slide deck, I can paste that back in there so you have it. And click on this link right here. It will open up to a Wakelet. And when you scroll through, you're going to see all of these different little tiles. And just look around and see if you see one that looks interesting to you. So there's a real wide variety. It might be a little overloaded with middle school science just because I'm a little biased. That's what I used to teach when I was in the classroom. But there are other things, like there's a Taylor Swift one. This was actually created by Holly Clark, so she made it public. So I went and got a copy of it and put it in here. A children's library space, learn narrative writing, so that's aligned with the North Carolina Standard Course of Study, middle school poetry, Wednesday, Magic Treehouse, Revolutionary War on Wednesday. So there are all kinds of different ones. So I'm going to click on which Bluey character am I? So if you open that one up, when you click on it, it will launch, hopefully. And your name, there'll be a space to put your name. So just put your first name. You don't need to do anything with this space code. It's automatically already in there. And then click join. And once you click join, it'll come up with some text. It'll have like some kind of a message that's already automatically created. So just take a couple minutes to experience the space as if you were a student and do all the things. You could be your best student, or you could be a typical student for your grade level. You kind of test it out. And I'm going to put a minute or so on the screen for us to just experience things.
Hey, Stacy, the chat's still not working for us, and I'm here with Jenny and Christy. And Christy has a question.
Okay, yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm glad you unmuted.
Um, I was looking at one of the ones on the Imagine You're a Drop of Water,
Okay,
but and I got in that one and it says like the session has ended. So does that mean that one doesn't work anymore?
that one may have been stopped by the so I will go back into the dashboard and see if I can restart it. I'll fix that link. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Kara. If you look, it says under construction, everyone was getting stuck in the ocean.
Okay. So that one was based on an actual face-to-face activity that we would do in science, where you actually went around the room to navigate through the ocean. And in real life, you actually do get stuck in the ocean indefinitely because, you know, the ocean is big. But I think getting stuck in the ocean in a chatbot experience is frustrating. So I'll see if I can fix that, though.
Hey, so Stacey, when you create these from scratch as a space as a teacher, are you able to make essentially an escape room type situation? Is that what I'm kind of seeing?
You can.
That it?
You can do that. You can make it a instructional experience. You can have it be a choose your own adventure style experience. There are a lot of different things that you can do.
I'm loving that.
Okay, so I'm gonna go. Let me reshare and go over to SchoolAI and just real quick show you a couple things. So let me get my sharing back up. Okay, so when you guys were over here in your experience, right? You had the so let's talk about this side of the screen. It came up with your welcome message. How many of you just did just typed your questions back and forth and interfaced with it just in a text-based way? And feel if you can't type in the chat, feel free to unmute and just share how that went.
This is Martha. I just texted. I did the bluey one.
Okay. How did anybody use the read aloud or the microphone?
I used it.
How did that go, Karen?
I think it's really great, especially as a former EC teacher. So I love the fact that it's so accessible, because usually we have to rely on students using Chromebook extensions to do the speech to text or text to speech. The fact that it's built in and the voice is so natural and conversational, which I think will draw the kids in more and feel more involved and engaged. And then they can use the speech to then dictate. So I think it's incredibly inclusive.
Excellent. I'm so glad you tried that out. We've seen even in noisy classrooms where everybody has their microphones kind of going at the same time, that it's pretty good at picking up the individual student's voice. And they might have trouble hearing it just because of classroom interference, but it can hear them pretty well. And it even picks up difficult to hear or to understand student speech, where the kids might not speak very clearly or they might not use perfect speech. It can still understand them pretty well. How about over here in the upper right-hand corner? I wanted to point out that if you click the gear, you notice that there are the two languages that come up right away are English and Spanish. But if you click the drop down, you can see all of the different languages that are available for it to translate into. So it has a lot of that built right in. Now, I haven't tested all of them because I would have no idea of the accuracy, but from the sandbox meetings that I've been in, it is reportedly pretty good. Let's see. Let me go over here to the dashboard and show you behind the scenes. When you click on spaces, you have create, and that's what we're going to get to in a sec, and then sessions. When you click on your sessions, that'll show you everything that you've got that is currently active. And so that one that is stopped, I'll go find it where it's ended and unend it and fix it. So I'm going to click over here and find one that has some students in it. So this one is one that I created called AI Hallucination Detective. So it's got a bunch of students in it. It's active, so you can kind of see that. And when you click on it, you can see everybody who is in it. So this would show you your student dashboard. And when you click on one of the students, you can see that what the student is doing and a little headline. It gives you a little sentiment analysis. It shows whether or not the student is doing well and that sort of thing. And when I talked about the guardrails that SchoolAI does, it will automatically kick out anything that is for just regular conversations, if the student was being frustrated or saying a lot of one-word answers, then that sentiment analysis would turn from a smiley face to a neutral face to a frowny face. So just sort of regular classroom interactions, then the teacher would see various forms of a smiley face there. But if anything was triggered that was violence, showed signs of poor mental health, there's a whole list of trigger words that you can see on their site that would automatically stop the chat, trigger an alert that would be sent to everybody that you have programmed in the alert system, and would also send it to your school administrator. So there's a lot of guardrails built in for that sort of thing. So I've got Aaron here, for example. There's a headline, so you can kind of see what that is. And then you can also copy the student link if you want them to rejoin. You can view, and so when I click on him, you can also see what the student said, what the chat gave them, and then a complete history of how the chat went. And then also back here, you can pause the student individually. You can pause the entire chat, but you can also pause the individual student. So if the good thing about pausing the entire chat is that if you want to only have the chat turned on for certain parts of your class and then turned off so that they don't have access at other times, so that things can be on and off, you can definitely kind of control those features of the access to the AI at certain times of the school day or of your class period. So quick time for questions about that before we go into actually building. Okay, so let's go back over here and look at the behind the scenes part. And I put a quick screenshot of this in your slide deck so that you have it. But remember when I said that design and simplicity are important? SchoolAI gives you a lot of features, but when it comes right down to it, you really only need to do 3 things when you're building your chatbot. You need to give it a title, something snazzy, but something informative. I try to give it an interesting title, but if it is aligned to standards, I also put my actual standards in parentheses so that I can remember. So give it a title. You need to write the prompt, so that's in this box, and then you need to click generate all fields. That's how you get your cute cover image. So these 3 things. There are other things that you can add, and you can definitely do that, but when it comes right down to it, it's only 3 things. All right, so you need an idea of what you're going to do. A lot of times that's the hardest thing to do, is what are you going to write? So in order to do that, one of the easiest ways to start is with your standards. So on this page, I want to walk you guys through, if you are going to do something with a standard course of study, content standard is you could go over to grab your standards. In 7th grade in science, for example, we just rolled out brand new science standards. So you could go over to the standard course of study and you could grab them. So for example, if I went to the standard course of study and I found my 7th grade science standards, then you could scroll down and grab those, give your website a minute to load and find them. So I don't know, my internet is having a little bit of a heart attack right now, so I'll just like give it a moment and grab your science standard. So that would be a really good way to start. And I wanted to show you really quick one of my favorite tools for unpacking standards, and that's Magic School's Standards Unpacker. So the next thing that I really love to do with teachers is to, well, with anybody actually, is to go over to the free side of Magic School and sign in. And up here in the upper the upper left corner is type in Unpacker. Fastest way to find something in Magic School, because they have so many tools, is just to type a keyword up here in the upper left-hand corner. So typing in Standards Unpacker, so Standards or Unpacker will bring this tool up to the top and open that up. And so if I have found my standard, which I haven't, none of my standards are unpacking themselves. So I will pretend that I know my standards. So I'm going to say, so I would get my actual North Carolina standards, which I don't have memorized at this time, but best practices would be to actually copy your North Carolina standard, not the main standard, but the substandard, and paste it in here. You could also attach your standard if you had the paperclip for it, using the paperclip, and put that in there. But in the absence of that for right now, since I'm having an internet issue, is to just use some keywords and then click generate. And it would put in, what it does is unpacks that standard completely for you. And my favorite thing about this in this process of creating a chatbot is that it will give you the key components and it'll formulate learning targets. And so we know in most cases, we don't take that complete standard that's the complete standard and teach the whole thing at one time. We usually break it out into separate learning targets and do it separately. So when we're designing this experience for students, we don't want to throw all that information out at them at one time. So I might take just one of my learning targets and have them learn how to describe the process of cell diffusion. Or I might have them identify factors that affect the rate of cell diffusion. Or I might have them learn how to illustrate it. It might be difficult for them to illustrate something with a chatbot, so that might be difficult for me to apply to this situation. So how about if I do identify factors that affect the rate of cell diffusion? I can copy that learning target and then go back over here to my SchoolAI site and say, now how can I make a chatbot that's going to help students with learning that process? So then the next step would be to go over to SchoolAI and use the SchoolAI Space Brainstormer to help come up with the text that is going to go into the SchoolAI prompt box. So that's where this Space Brainstormer comes in super handy. So the next step would be to click on this link right here. And this opens up a SchoolAI Space Brainstormer. And I wanted to give you two things here. One is the ability to make a copy of it for yourself, but the other one is to be able to launch it. So to launch the space, you click this little paper airplane, copy the link, and then go over here and paste it in. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You click launch, you copy the space code, and then you paste it in. And that's going to do the exact same thing that we did with the other one. It gives you this space to join. And so you join that space, and it's going to walk you through the process of creating text to put into your prompt box, into that AI prompt box. So what I'd like to give you guys a chance to do is to go over here to our site, right to this page right here, and think of something, an idea that you would like to turn into an AI chatbot, whether it is a standard that you would like to create. So you could grab a standard and unpack it using Magic School. So you would click here and go to the standards unpacker. Or if you are not going to use a standard, so you don't need to do this step, then go directly over here to the SchoolAI Space Brainstormer and click on this link, click launch, and then use the SchoolAI Chat Brainstormer to walk through, just read these directions, and it will walk you through the process to create the text that goes into the AI prompt box so that you can create your first chatbot. And I am going to stay on screen and stay unmuted so that if you have questions, you can ask. So I'm going to type in my microphone's muted. So you can see after I gave it a very simple prompt, so not the, my detailed standard course of study, right? It created some information based on cell diffusion that was something that I might have done actually in class, and created a prompt and then gave me this link to create a new space and the instructions to copy this information. And so I copied it, clicked this link, and it took me over here to this creation space. So I had to create a title, not the most exciting title, but factual, and then pasted that information into the AI prompt box. So that's step 2. And then went down here to generate all fields, which is step 3. It took it a minute and it created this picture. And then it fills in all of the other information, so I don't have to do anything else. After you do that, you would click Start Preview to test the space and see if it behaves the way you think it should. So it comes up and says, "Hello, young scientist. I'm excited to explore with you today how different factors affect the rate of cell diffusion. Let's dive in and learn together. First up, what do you think diffusion means? Can you give me an example in everyday life?" I like that because it's not a yes/no question. Sometimes SchoolAI is bad about starting off with, "Are you ready?" And if I'm a 7th grader, my answer to anything that is, "Am I ready?" is no, right? So you would definitely have to start off with, acting like your most, sort of apathetic student who really doesn't want to do anything. Kind of channel that student to make sure that you're testing your space as if you were your students, and you want to make sure that it's going to behave the way you want it to, not just factually, but also from your student's point of view. Okay, so test it out. If everything is working the way you want it to, click Save and Launch. And as soon as you do that, it will give you your space code. And what I would love is if you were able to create a space that you're kind of happy with, if you click that space code and copy it, that's the code that you would put into your learning management system to share with your students. And it would be super cool if you would put it over here into our Padlet, where you could share it with us. And we could test it out for you. That would also give you some students. I could join your space and I could test it out as a student, and let you know how your space was working with us as well. So that would be fun. This Padlet will stay open. It's our Wednesday webinar Padlet, and I'll just keep adding columns for the different things that we're doing, so you could check back and see how other things are doing. Okay, now I only have a couple more minutes left, so I want to make sure that I tell you some more things. We had our design time, so that's that. I have this awesome video from John Spencer about how all of this is very empowering for students, so I'm just going to leave that there for you to look at later. John Spencer is amazing. This is a great example of a thinking routine Wakelet over here that has all kinds of things from the Project Zero and a lot of other protocols, and I turned one of them into the I used to think, now I think SchoolAI space that you can definitely do analog, but it also works really well as a chatbot. So that's an example of one that is not a standard course of study one, but is also great for critical thinking. So I wanted to share with you that example. And then this is a document that has all sorts of other ideas for SchoolAI, for chatbot experiences that are not directly related to standard course of study, but are other ways to use them. And we talked about how you can definitely have it be a mentor and a tutor and a coach, but there are also other ways to use SchoolAI spaces, like simulators, like gamification ideas, like choose your own adventure ideas. And so once you get comfortable with creating direct, tutor type coaches, which is the the baseline way, in a very routine way, you can start using all kinds of other ways to do it. So we are also, adding to this document all of the time. So you can feel free to make a copy of it, but also save the live link because this is being updated all the time. It also has the steps for doing this kind of in a cheat sheet oriented way. So rather than going back to the slide deck, you could also see this in a more linear format. Okay, so I wanted to share that with you. And then one more set of resources for you. This is a Wakelet. There are 2 Wakelets in here. One is kind of the mother of all Wakelets that has just different resources for AI and education. It has all of the resources that are in the North Carolina AI guidance curated into their various categories. And then a lot of other resources that we've been collecting throughout the past year or so as things have become available. And like everything about AI changes every time you turn around. So we wanted to make sure that all of that, just stays as up to date as possible. And then this last one here on chatbot resources for K-12 education is another really important one because we feel like the chatbot space for students is really changing quickly, and especially in early education. The one thing that we wanted to make sure that people knew is that, especially for early education, chatbots are something that young children may not realize are not. You mentioned that the voice sounds very natural, and so we want to make sure that young students are very informed, if you are using chatbots with them, that this is not a person, that it is not their new best friend, and that teachers are very aware of how they're using chatbots with any children, especially if they're using them on their devices in early education. And in fact, the North Carolina AI guidance does not recommend using chatbots with students in K-5 education. It's definitely something for secondary students. So there's some more information here on that evolving space for K-12 education. So we'll update that Wakelet as we're going along. And the feedback form for CEUs is right here, so we will drop that link in the chat so that you have access to that. And please know that we really appreciate you spending your time here this morning to learn about this. And if you have any questions, definitely reach out and let us know what types of webinars you would like to see in the future, because we definitely take your feedback to heart and try to be as responsive to that as possible. And we hope to see you back here next week. And this is a link to make a copy of the presentation. Just click on that and it'll put a copy of it into your Canva account. And thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.